Hello indie game fans, on top of the release of both Scourgebringer and Stone Shard this week, there are plenty of action roguelite and traditional roguelike titles to look forward to in 2020, starting with Star Renegades. I know, I have brought this game up so many times before, but this is really my most anticipated indie game for 2020 at the moment. A pixel art roguelite RPG where you play as a band of rebels spanning multiple generations on their mission to topple galactic empires. There is permadeath and procedural generation, as is expected, but the pixel art is the main draw in my opinion. Turn-based, almost JRPG-like combat could be interesting in a roguelite, with gorgeous pixel art even in the overworld, so I'm just itching for more details on the gameplay structure and loop. If Hades from Supergiant Games has taught me anything, the incorporation of well-written characters and lore into a roguelite dungeon crawler is possible, and as such, renewed my interest in Boyfriend Dungeon. This features weapons that transform into your romance options, and is a pretty weird concept to say the least. Now, I'm not the most visual novel type person, but I'm curious to see where this leads me. The first of two Kickstarter titles on this list is Neon Blight, a cyberpunk pixel art roguelite action game where you run your own gun store. Think Moonlighter crossed with Enter the Gungeon and you get the gist. First of all, the pixel art again looks fantastic, and this even incorporates elements not commonly seen in cyberpunk fiction, such as nature and an outside world to explore. All the guns are upgradable, with I think about 100 types of guns in the current build, so quite the amount of variety. This also seems to be rather far along in development, having first started in 2018 and even promising a November 2020 release. So this last sum will allow for the hiring of external talent to polish up the title, and for the developer to put in a solid 10 months full-time on the game. But since those two titles name dropped by the creator are some of my favorites, I'm keenly interested in this.
Strange, isn't it? From childhood, we have been told that the universe is endless. It was said that there are millions of worlds out there, and that none of them can be reached. They said that they were thousands of light years away from us. But what if this is not the whole truth? What if we live in a multiverse where a thin membrane separates worlds from each other, and this membrane is not as strong as it seems? A slight malfunction in the universe's functioning mechanism caused everything to go down the drain. 7 worlds, 7 variations of Earth were instantly merged. Those few who survived called this cataclysm the Shift. And then you came. The 7 heralds. Each of you carries the core, which has the power to resolve the current stalemate. I do not know how many times I have repeated these words. Every time one of you fails, I have to start the story again. The core does not allow the herald to die definitely. But each time, you have to learn this world anew. Perhaps that is the point. But one day, one of you will succeed, and then everything will end. I know you do not have time to understand the details, but do not get disconcerted with those outside. They simply do not understand.
Another title which has been a very long time coming is Undungeon, which again is a pixel art roguelite dungeon crawler where you play as one of the 7 heralds, each a survivor of a world destroyed by something known as the Shift, with 7 different Earths from multiple dimensions merged into one. Travel through the ruins of the multiverse and decide its fate, since you need to gather the shards of the broken worlds and to rebuild them from scratch, which naturally will be seen as hostile by the existing inhabitants. Very impressed by the visual style, especially in the world and enemy designs, but again, curious to know more about the structure and look. This is the second go around for Aquamarine on Kickstarter, following an unsuccessful campaign earlier, and is a sci-fi exploration and survival roguelike where you crash land on a planet covered by water and must find ways to survive. Your other main objective is also to find the source of the malicious signal that caused your spacecraft to crash in the first place. The art here is a highlight, emulating the works of French artist Moebius and the sci-fi inspirations from the 70s and 80s. Each dive into the ocean is procedurally generated as you explore and learn about the alien flora and fauna. You can cultivate a home and plants in the small island that you land on, with the ultimate goal of getting back to your ship. There appears to be a number of secrets about the planet to uncover as well, and for the purists out there, this is turn-based as well, so more on the roguelike end of things. The campaign has been successfully funded, with 18 days left to go as of recording, so hop in if you just want to support them immediately. In a world where humanity has lost the future and strange creatures have overrun the planet, somehow the moon is behind it all, so I guess it's your job to destroy it? That's the pitch for Against the Moon, which man, certainly has got me intrigued. This is a roguelite deck builder RPG that looks to have some elements of Magic the Gathering, since you are placing creatures on the board with grid-based tactics combat that does look fun. Decent art with interesting character designs, but the idea of going up against the tyrant moon is genius, making it seem as though it was written by that Twitter account. Another one which has been kicking around for a little while, Crown Trick is a roguelike dungeon crawler in every sense of the term, with grid-based exploration, procedural generation, and turn-based combat. However, to make it immediately appealing to a wider audience, this has a pretty nice hand-drawn art style as well. The focus seems to be on weapons and abilities that do area of effect damage, whether in a grid or on a line, and there are also environmental interactions that behave as you would expect them to. Freezing a puddle of water or shocking it with lightning will cause damage to all enemies standing in it. Spelunky 2 is the sequel to one of the most highly regarded indie games of all time in Spelunky, mirroring creator Derek Yu's own journey about becoming a father, where you play as the daughter of the original character. The main additions seem to be liquid physics and rideable mounts, but new areas, enemies, items, traps and secrets are expected as well. These should lead to some of the best emergent stories, which are the best parts of roguelites, so top of the list for many people. Skull the Hero Slayer is a pixel art roguelite action platformer that looks very impressive, so you immediately know that I am on board. The main hoax is that our protagonist can gain new abilities by wearing the different skulls of his enemies, and is a reversal of the traditional fantasy story where the humans have invaded and captured the Demon King. As the sole remaining loyal subject not imprisoned, it is up to Skull to rescue his king and save the day. My goodness, the art really is top of the line, a little bit similar to Our Boy in my opinion, and this is from a Korean indie developer, which is nice since more variety in developers is always welcome. The popularity of Slay the Spire has certainly inspired its fair share of games, and For the Walk is one of the upcoming titles that merges that game with the space setting of FTL Faster Than Light. You need to deliver your precious cargo by exploring procedurally generated space systems and jumping from one warp gate to the next, with the now iconic energy system for your cards, but we'll see if the enemy's intention is fully displayed or if there's some new innovation. Burning Night is an interesting one since you play as a goblin and have to steal everything that you can from the Burning Knight's castle. Again, a reversal of roles, and it seems as though the eponymous Burning Knight will be a constant threat that will pop up again and again, where depleting his health will only cause him to disappear for a little while. Always interested in more roguelite action games, so you know I'm down for this. Speaking of action roguelites, Going Under is an interesting one since it is a satirical dungeon crawler poking fun at startup culture. In this dystopian city, failed businesses don't simply go under and disappear, rather, they sink beneath the earth and their employees are cursed to wander eternity as monsters. Talk about an incentive. Play as an unpaid intern and wield office junk as weapons, killing these monsters and repossessing their assets. Fittingly, recovered assets empower the company that you work for while you are paid in experience, so hints of a meta progression system, but a wacky art style in a game which looks like fun. Hey guys, if you can, do support me on Patreon, since I'm currently trying to upgrade my microphone and to reinvest in the channel. You do also get access to a members only Discord channel, so thank you all for the support. One look at One Step from Eden, and you can immediately tell that its inspiration is Mega Man Battle Network, a series which has not gotten a new game in more than 10 years. So again, it is up to indie developers to pick up the slack. This focuses on real-time, tile-based deck-building combat and puts in a roguelite structure as per Slay the Spire or FTL with multiple nodes on the map. Managing cooldowns and building your deck is essential, as is reading the enemy attacks, reacting and moving to avoid, so a fast-paced, intense action roguelite, which should be pretty good. I, Dracula Genesis is an ambitious twin-stick roguelite action game which seems to be taking things to the next level in terms of the amount of stuff in it, but it has awesome pixel art and an interesting isometric camera angle. Taking place in the year 420 AC, or after Cataclysm, monsters, demons, aliens and robots now roam the earth, and only the genetically modified hunters can survive in this environment. There are over 160 enemies, 20 bosses, 1,200 items and abilities, from relics, weapons, skills, perks, artifacts, consumables and more, making for quite the chunky experience in terms of volume. Action in the trailer looks fast-paced and intense, but again, completely blown away by the art style.
Tired of your boring 9-to-5? Become a dungeon master. Hire a wide variety of monsters to send into battle.
Legend of Keepers: Career of a Dungeon Master is a turn-based roguelite RPG that looks like Darkest Dungeon crossed with Dungeon Keeper. As the recent video on games like Darkest Dungeon shows, I'm a fan of these types of games and I'm itching for more. Place traps and summon minions to defend the dungeon from foolish heroes, with an RPG system for the dungeon bosses as well. Impressive pixel art, but we'll see on the depth due to the limit of 3v3 combat. This has a free demo prologue out on Steam, which is worth a play, so give it a shot and let me know what you think. One of the titles that made my list of the most anticipated indie games of the year is Neon Abyss, a roguelite platformer with unlimited item synergies, a neon-infused look, and of course, the dubstep soundtrack. I think that dubstep is alright in small amounts and in the right context, but the proposition of something that allows you to combine and synergize all your items and power-ups is a tantalizing one, since this is the best part of all roguelites. Finding that overpowered combination and embracing the chaos makes it seem as though the developers are confident in their ability to balance everything, so we'll see later this year. First revealed at E3 2019, Unexplored 2 The Wayfarer's Legacy is the follow-up to the 2017 roguelite dungeon crawler, but sports a vastly improved graphical look that should appeal to a much larger audience. It leaves the dingy underground dungeons in favour of an open world where terrain, height and depth factor into the combat as well. If you're like me and interested in the nitty-gritty details of game design, despite not being a game developer, Google Unexplored Game, Cyclic Dungeon Generation and be fascinated at how their technology procedurally generates these environments, which I presume will feed into this new title as well. Going back to the game, The Wayfarer's Legacy is the subtitle because the legacy that your character leaves behind factors into subsequent playthroughs, where actions previously taken can affect the future. Killing a pack of wolves harassing a town may lead to it prospering, where they can then sell helpful items to future adventurers. Seems very ambitious, so hope it meets the 2020 release. Dreamscaper is a Binding of Isaac style roguelite action game with a surrealist vibe to it, since it takes place within dreams or nightmares. There's a mental health theme of literally battling depression and inner demons, so it's a little bit on the nose, but hopefully is able to tell a story of overcoming mental trauma. I like the low poly art style and soft lighting, really imparting that dreamy feel to the title, so hopefully the procedural generation and variety is robust enough to keep us entertained for hours to come.
Hell, our home. Frozen when heaven extinguished the pyres. But one spark is enough to reignite a revolution.
Monster Train is set in a world where hell froze over, but the spark of the final burning pyre now resides on the train and you must protect it as it barrels onwards.
The Gilded Wing will stop at nothing to destroy it. But the champions of hell will defend what's ours.
Command the legions of hell as you fight off the angelic invaders. This looks pretty interesting, since there's a lane strategy element to this, having to confront enemies on all levels of the train, with a very Slay the Spire looking interface and energy system. However, the introduction of new mechanics makes this seem quite interesting, with some pretty nice art as well.
This war isn't over until hell burns again.
You made this world in your image. It's a sick joke. An affliction. A creeping curse that swallows you whole. Fallen, broken, lost control. And now a choice is in your hands. The Ring of...
I was just kicking myself for not putting Ring of Pain on my list of most anticipated games of 2020, so I had to give it another shout out. This is a roguelite, card-based dungeon crawler, but surprisingly does not try to copy Slay the Spire. Rather, this has almost solitaire-like mechanics of unveiling cards, though there is an inventory system of collecting items and using them at the right time. Awesome art style and one which I'm very excited for.
Your final choice is who to trust.
Speaking of roguelite card games, Hexity is an upcoming one of these with a cyberpunk theme, which automatically adds a sense of style to the title. The combat system also looks very distinct in that while there are deck building elements as well, you have to slot these into a grid and have the ability to hack these cards as well, making for quite an interesting alternative. Always keen to check out new mechanics and ideas in roguelite card games, so count me in. The Last Spell is a pixel art roguelike tactics game which cites Final Fantasy Tactics and Dynasty Warriors as inspirations, where you need to defend the last bastion of humanity against the endless hordes of demons. Your objective is to defend a group of mages as they attempt to cast the last spell to banish all magic from the world. I see some similarities to They Are Billions as well, only as a turn-based tactics title, but base building elements, roguelite progression, and awesome pixel art has got me keeping a very close eye on this. I have a noted love for roguelite platformers, and Renane is one which I am excited for. You play as a Phoenix Knight on the quest to defeat the invincible dragon and start with the basic attack, jump, and a dodge roll, where it is possible to beat the game with just these right from the get-go. However, there are permanent upgrades like HUD containers, magic items, abilities, and so on, so it should prove to be quite the compelling gameplay loop, Rogue Legacy style. Due to some recent controversy with then publisher Dangan Entertainment, developer Octosoft have parted ways with them, and as a result, missed their targeted 2019 release, so hopefully they can get all the legal stuff sorted out and 2020 will be the year. Adore is a roguelite action-adventure game but with elements of monster taming, so a huge yes please from me. Come on, roguelite gameplay loop with Zelda-like combat, and you have a monster friend of your own? That checks all of my boxes, and as a pleasant surprise, this hits Steam Early Access later this month.
Another soul fouls my temple with every step.
Curse of the Dead Gods is an action roguelite where you delve into an accursed temple driven by greed for untold riches, eternal life, divine powers, and more.
Mass. At the cost of your soul. How deep will greed take you before you forget all you once were? How many sacrifices until you realize the divine is out of reach?
This is from developer Pastag Games, behind the underrated Pikmin-like Masters of Anima, and is an action roguelite along the vein of something like Hades. However, I do like the ancient temple setting where you wield guns in addition to your standard medieval melee weapons, but it certainly has a gorgeous art style with an early access release soon, taking the #1 spot.
Answer me, mortal.
If you enjoyed the video, be sure to like, share and subscribe. Check out the recommended playlist or the best pick for you, and I will see you after the jump.